For some time past, there has been a move to renovate the opera. Opera is to have its form modernized and its content brought up to date, but without its culinary character being changed. Since it is precisely for its backwardness that the opera-going public adores opera, an influx of new types of listeners with appetites has to be reckoned with, and so it is. The intention is to democratize, but not to alter democracy's character, which consists in giving the people new rights, but no chance to appreciate them. Ultimately, it is all the same to the waiter whom serves, so long as he serves the food. Thus, the avant-garde are demanding or supporting innovations which are supposedly going to lead to a renovation of opera. But nobody demands a fundamental discussion of opera, example, of its function. And probably such a discussion would not find much support. The modesty of the avant-garde's demand has economic grounds of whose existence they themselves are only partly aware. Great operati like the opera, the stage, the press, etc., impose their views as it were incognito. For a long time now, they have taken the handiwork, music, writing, criticism, etc., of intellectuals who share in their profits, that is, of men who are economically committed to the prevailing system but are socially near proletarian, and processed it to make fodder for their public entertainment machine, judging it by their own standards and guiding it into their own channels. Meanwhile, the intellectuals themselves have gone on supposing that the whole business is concerned only with the presentation of their work, is a secondary process which has no influence over their work but merely wins influence for it. This muddled thinking, which overtakes musicians, writers, and critics as soon as they consider their own situation, has tremendous consequences to which far too little attention is paid. For by imagining that they have got hold of an apparatus which in fact has got a hold of them, they are supporting an apparatus which is out of their control, which is no longer, as they believe, a means of furthering output, but has become an obstacle to output, and specifically to their own output as soon as it follows a new and original course which the apparatus finds awkward or opposed to its own aims. Their output then becomes a matter of delivering the goods. Values evolve, which are based on the Fodder principle, and this leads to a general habit of judging works of art by their suitability for their apparatus, without ever judging the apparatus by its suitability for the work. People say, this or that is a good work, and they mean, but do not say, good for the apparatus. Yet this apparatus is conditioned by society of the day and only accepts what can keep it going in that society. We are free to discuss any innovation which doesn't threaten its social function. That of providing an evening's entertainment, we are not free to discuss those which threaten to change its function, possibly by fussing it with the educational system or with the organs of mass communication. Society absorbs via the apparatus whatever it needs in order to reproduce itself. This means that an innovation will pass if it is calculated to rejuvenate existing society, but not if it is going to change it, irrespective whether the form of society in question is good or bad. The avant-garde don't think of changing the apparatus, because they fancy that they have at their disposal an apparatus which will serve up whatever they freely invent, transforming itself spontaneously to match their ideas. But they are not, in fact, free inventors. The apparatus goes on fulfilling its function with or without them. The theaters play every night. The papers come out so many times a day, and they absorb what they need, and all they need is a given amount of stuff. You might think that to show up this situation, the creative artist's utter dependence on the apparatus would be to condemn it, its concealment, is such a disgrace. And yet to restrict the individual freedom of invention is in itself a progressive act. The individual becomes increasingly drawn into enormous events that are going to change the world. No longer can he simply express himself. He is brought up short and put into a position where he can fulfill more general tasks. The trouble, however, is that at the present the apparati do not work for the general good. The means of production do not belong to the producer. As a result, his work amounts to so much merchandise and is governed by the normal laws of mercantile trade. Art is merchandise, only to the manufactured by the means of production apparati. An opera can only be written for the opera. One can't just think up an opera like one of Böcklin's fantastic sea beasts, then hope to exhibit it publicly after having seized power, let alone trying to smuggle it into our dear old zoo. That is the opening passage to Bertolt Brecht's The Modern Theater and Epic Theater. Bertolt Brecht is one of my theater idols, probably like half of all theater artists in the world. There really isn't anything quite like him. Mother Courage, The Mother, Threepenny. I love these shows. I do. I really, really do. I've never performed a Brecht show. Never had time. I'm going to be hopping back and forth between Brecht and Brecht. I don't know which one's right. I don't know which one you prefer. I was taught Brecht in college, but it doesn't really roll off the tongue as well as Brecht, does it? Actually, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and just start calling Brecht going forward. I think it's going to make everyone have an easier time. Brecht, Sam Shepard, Marina Carr are the three theater artists that I have been trying to mold my identity into. I love Sam Shepard because he has a tendency to write about the idea of finding something that is lost and realizing that it never existed in the first place. When I first listened to True West, I first learned about True West as a scene I did with one of my best friends in a regional competition for theater. We didn't come close to getting a state or national ranking. It wasn't that good. We were freshmen and had no real understanding of the piece. But that first scene really intrigued me. It provoked me. And then shortly after, I watched John Malkovich and Gary Sinise do True West. And it is one of the most electric pieces of theater I've ever seen. I don't think I'll ever see anything like it again. I'm not saying it's my favorite production of the theater I've ever seen out there, but True West is my favorite play for a reason. And I would give it a good chunk of that to John Malkovich and Gary Sinise. Marina Carr is everything that Sam Shepard is, but from a woman's perspective. And, for a long time that wasn't really important to me. I spent a long time believing that the gender divide is a narrative, that man and woman really do just think the same thoughts, and it's quite simply not true. It's not biological, it's cultural. Culturally, we grow up on two different streets. The man and the woman do. And I'm not sure if it's right to try to have us living on the same street. Quite frankly, I don't think we ever could. I believe it's important to some degree that we are on two different streets, because I read Carr's plays and I simply understood how little I understood. It's an effect like that. And what Carr does is she writes so similarly to Sam Shepard. She has similar longings and tropes, ideas of lost parental figures, and needs to find something that is never there. When I first read By the Bog of Cats, I had already read Medea, and to see it so brilliantly reimagined is probably the greatest adaptation of any piece of literature I think I've ever read. That's just me putting it out there. When I read Woman and Scarecrow, I knew this would be the piece that I needed to define myself as an artist, which is why I chose it to be the first play that I would direct. Woman and Scarecrow really put me in a different gear as an artist. It gave me so much, but asked for so much in return. There was so much work that needed to be done, but so much raw material given. It was the most generous and challenging play I think I've ever read. So I've looked up to these three theater artists, and I hope one day to be like them. I hope to make theater that is groundbreaking, that isn't safe. Bertolt Brecht, got myself there. Bertolt Brecht believed that the theater that is safe is the theater that simply appeals to the bourgeois. Now, I'm not a communist or a Marxist. I'm barely a socialist. But I do believe in the idea of stagnancy through classism, and I believe in classism. And I believe as theater artists there is a strong temptation to create and make theater that is selfish. Theater that really is meant simply for me as an artist. Something that I can have fun with, that I can explore, that doesn't challenge anyone but myself. I mentioned yesterday that my first play was Arsenic and Old Lace by, I think it was Kaufman and Hart. If it wasn't, I'm sorry. Don't take my word for it. This is not a news channel. And I love that play. But it is a firm reminder of everything that theater should not be. It's funny. It's wonderful. It's an escape. But it is a sedative. It is a form of reducing the ideas of the world to one small neighborhood in New York, where the audiences that watch that play probably lived on. Could you imagine spending your whole life only watching art, only reading literature, only exposing yourself to things that were about your neighborhood? It's numbing. And yeah, you can do plays that take place outside of your neighborhood, but it's not the same, because I can watch a very realistic play taking place in a saloon in the Congo, but I'm not gonna know what it feels like. I'm going to only be able to put my boxed-in self into that world. And I haven't grown because I don't understand the feeling. I'm not being screamed at. Theater needs to scream at you, because in the theater you are God. So when I am getting screamed at, I don't want to see something I can recognize. I want to feel something that I can't recognize. I want to see intangible. I want to see the unimaginable. And I want to make that. Not for myself, but for my patrons. But I don't think I can. I just don't. I've got a problem. I'm so impatient. On a spiritual level, I am impatient. I just simply can't take things slow. I charge into everything I do at the pace of a rhino shot in the ass by lightning. And I do it because I don't know any other speed to go at. Slowing down doesn't make me change speed. It just makes me do slow things really, really, really fast. It's unnatural. I've always felt like my life is moving at 100 miles an hour in my brain, in my heart, and in my body. I have an impatience that will ultimately be the fatal flaw in any theater and art I make, because I will feel comfortable and confident so early because I've already gone through the journey of second guessing myself before I've even started. I can't sit and wait for things to develop because I just want to be at the finish line. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I really don't. It's my life's work. It means I get my homework done real quick. It means I get ideas real quick. It means I write things out real quick. But that's not art. Art is not speed. Speed is a sport. Speed is used in competition. And art is not competition. Art's collaboration. How can I collaborate if I'm not moving at the same speed as the people around me? I don't collaborate. I don't. I need to move at my pace, and no one I've ever met's been able to keep up with my pace. I'm always asking, are we ready? Are we ready? And it's destructive. I watched the recording of my first directed show of Woman and Scarecrow recently. I don't know how I felt about it. I love it. I love what I did. I know my vision and I saw it, but I just felt like I could have done more. And I can blame a lack of time, but I had time. I finished early and I didn't want to take any more time than I had to do. Because I don't do anything but finish early. It's in my blood. Because I'm moving too goddamn fast. When I first read Mother Carriage... fuck me up. When I first read Mother Courage, it was, well, a little less than a year ago. I was amazed at how slow things had to go. And not things that he took it. They had to be that slow a pace. It had to be so incremental. And it was glorious. It was absolutely beautiful. Before that, I read The Cherry Orchard. After it, I read Endgame, but they didn't compare. And I love both those plays. I don't want to act like I'm being a snob here. But Mother Courage and Her Children is a masterpiece. It's something I can never do. I will never do. And maybe that's the other reason why I can't make art anymore. why I'm going to go into administration, into an office and wear a suit and talk about financing and how with shows our theaters are going to make and who we're going to hire, and I'm going to manage a theater. But I'm not going to make theater. I'm just too fucking fast. I have a stuffed penguin. His name's Otto. I love him. I'm 22 years old, and I understand what toxic masculinity is. It doesn't mean I still don't feel it, and it doesn't mean the idea that I, at this age of this chosen gender of male, I'm aware that it feels very strange, very unmanly, very, very like something that I should have outgrown. But I love Otto. He is a comfort. And when I'm alone and I feel the thoughts of insecurity, of depression, ideas that I am not good enough, I whisper into his ear. And I put his wing, and I flip it over my shoulder, and I hug him. And as I'm telling him everything I feel about my life, how I feel like I'm done for, how I am already at the end and there's no more achievement for me to accomplish because there's nothing that I can earn that won't be beaten out from me by someone more successful, someone more ambitious, and someone who's just simply more likable. I can feel him hug me back. And I love it. I love hugging Otto. He's my joy. It's the one time where I feel like I don't have to scream. The one time where I feel like I am at peace. Nah, it's not the one time. I love my girlfriend. She does the same thing, but she's not here right now. She's over in Florida. It's what it is. She's pursuing her career, also in theater. I'm proud of her. I love her. I don't need to scream when I'm with her. But I'm here and she's in Florida. So for now, I've got Otto. And that's when I don't have to scream. I recently watched Paris, Texas. This Sam Shepard written piece, co-written, maybe adapted, I still don't know the details. And it was beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of film, the cinema, whatever snobby term you want to call it. I felt something. Not something like I could relate to. I felt an emotional evoking inside of me. Is inspiration. I felt like this is something that I could do. I felt like I could be Sam Shepard in that moment. Not because I felt like I had the talent or the ideas, but watching that movie, I felt like I was the man in the picture, the one with amnesia. His name's blanking on me. I want to say the actor's name here was, that's right, it was Harry Dean Stanton. And I felt like Harry Dean Stanton because I spent a long time feeling very frail, very shaggy-haired, not quite sure what is and isn't my life. But I felt like I could piece it together pretty easily if I could sit down and do it. And that's why I don't give up. That's why I still plan on making theater. Why I still want to be an artist. Because Sam Shepard, Marina Carr, and Bertolt Brecht, they remind me that theater and art, it's not something that you have to do. It's not a competition. It's not about making a piece that fits boxes and checks off ideas. It's just making something that's yourself. But it's more than just putting yourself in a box and shipping it out. It's turning yourself into a bigger image. Something that people aren't going to understand, but are going to be affected by in one way or another. Maybe that's how I'm going to figure out who this bigger molded shape that I need to carve myself into is going to look like. Not sure how else I'm going to do it at this point. So I think we have an answer. I called this piece No More Brecht because when I wrote it, I figured it's me saying I am not the next Bertolt Brecht. And I'm not. I figure at best I can be a regionally successful director, have some acclaim, maybe a local show or two, at best. I don't think there is another Bertolt Brecht, but at the same time, if there is no more one Bertolt Brecht, that means his soul, his idea, his being, the very kind of concept of art and talent and skill is diffused and spread out into all of us. There's a bit of Brecht in me, as there's a bit of Brecht in you. We all inherited it, as it's our birthright as humans on Earth. So I'm going to use mine. Just a little bit of it. And maybe I will make my own Mother Courage and her children. Whatever that looks like. It'll be me. And I hope you like it.